Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Hope. My name is Tammy Lynn Connors. This is my podcast and YouTube channel, helping other people evolve. Today, I have the beautiful Jackie with me. Hi, Jackie. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. You're in Canada, correct?
I am Ontario, Canada.
How's the weather been up there?
It's been kind of stormy. We got a big storm. I don't know if you got it down in Michigan, but we got a massive storm 2 nights ago or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of power outages,
We did
trees
too.
down.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Did you say
Oh,
again?
I said, but there was lots of power outages and trees down. So
Yeah.
been an intense couple days getting everybody their power back.
Right. Yeah, we had a couple tornadoes actually touch down in Michigan.
Yeah.
On that night too. So yeah, scary stuff, man. These storms have been something lately. So
Yeah.
well, anyways, everybody, if you haven't tuned into Hope before, my mission and vision when I started this was just to help people that feel like they're at home struggling by themselves. I always say since 2020, I always say that Kobe and Gianna kicked off 2020 with a mess. I mean, I was not a basketball fan, but even Kobe and Gianna and that helicopter crash like crushed my heart, just for all the people and everything like that. So when I started this, I knew that there's so many people at home struggling and laying in their bed or sitting on their couch, not wanting to get up, not wanting to walk outside, not even wanting to live, some people. And through this, what I've done is I've found people that unfortunately have been through struggles but fortunately are getting to a strength. We all haven't reached our complete strength yet, but we're working on it. And today Jackie's going to share with us some of the things that she's went through. And I just hope that you hear a story on here and it just helps you to know that you're not alone in your struggle. You can get through things. We have to have tools to use, but you can get up and you can open that front door and just take a breath and know that you're going to be okay. So Jackie, we talked a little bit a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Once again, I follow Jackie on TikTok and I was like, I'm going to reach out to her. I always tell people it's funny. I'd say 85% of the people that I've interviewed, I have never met before in my life. I just my thing is God, and he always puts the people in my life. So it's just been an amazing, amazing journey. So if you want to just maybe go a little bit about who Jackie is, and then we can talk about, what you went through in your marriage. And that was your marriage, right?
Okay, so my TikTok.
Right.
So you found me on TikTok. My TikTok page started after I came out of a relationship, and at the time I had no idea that it was an abusive relationship. And I think that that's common. Like, a lot of people get out of these toxic relationships and they're just so confused and they have no idea what they even experienced. It's hard to put into words.
Right.
So I got out of this relationship and I was confused, and I was just doing all this research trying to figure out, like, what the hell happened in that relationship. And I spent hours on TikTok every night after putting my daughter to bed, watching all these videos. And one day it just dawned on me, I was in an abusive relationship. This makes sense to me. And so I turned to TikTok and I just wanted to share my experiences, because I found that a lot of the creators on there are making TikTok videos. A lot of the information is just so general. Like, these are the warning signs, right? But I wanted to be able to share what it actually looks like. I wanted to give real examples of all of these, narcissistic traits or emotionally abusive patterns. I wanted to give real examples so that people could actually relate to it and be able to identify it in their relationships. So that's where I started, and it was just meant to be like a therapeutic thing for me, and it just kind of exploded a bit more than I thought. And I've gotten so much positive feedback from followers and from other content creators, and it's just been pretty a whirlwind experience, completely unexpected. So that's awesome. Where it's
yeah. And so I think that what you're saying, because I do that, like, I'll get on there and you hear, like, do this, like, walk away from them, but it doesn't work like that. I just said that the other day. Even though we know we need to leave something like that, people don't understand how much it hurts to actually do that, because you're mentally not right in that situation.
Oh yeah. And to add to that, I think that a lot of it is hard to even recognize in the moment. Like you don't, when you're in it, it's hard to see that it is a toxic relationship, because part of it is get the other person getting you to second guess yourself all the time. You're
Yeah.
constantly questioning yourself. And so even though something inside you is telling you it's not right, that other person is pointing the finger at you saying, yeah, it's all you. You're the problem. You're the one that has issues. You need to fix yourself. So my goal was to put into words what a lot of people have a hard time articulating. This is what it looks like when someone is, especially like the covert manipulation, when somebody's being passive aggressive, when somebody's, saying these certain phrases. This is manipulative, just trying to give real examples of what it looks like in an abusive dynamic. Right. So that you can spot it, because until you are able to spot it, then you're just going to constantly be stuck and lost in that confusion.
Yeah. And the thing is too, is when you're stuck and lost in that confusion, you're really stuck and lost in that confusion, because you're so broken and beaten down by this point, your own mind is questioning you then, like, wow, that was I still once in a while will do that. Like with my sister is like that. And sometimes she'll turn everything around and then I'll hang up the phone and I'm so like, oh, at her. And then I'll be like, what just happened? Then I'll turn it around. Like, maybe if I would have done this, you know what I mean? I'm like, no, it wasn't me, And so I think that's hard, especially when you're in those relationships. How long were you in that relationship?
That one was a 4-year relationship.
And did it start like that?
It was my first relationship after my divorce. So I was in another toxic relationship before that. But it was my first, real relationship after my divorce. And it just kind of threw me, because I thought after my marriage, I had done a whole lot of inner work and healing but, clearly there was still more work for me to do, because I found myself in that type of a dynamic of a relationship. And it pointed to a lot of things that I still needed to work on within myself.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. In the beginning of that relationship, this is from my experience, like, everything's amazing. You're amazing. Here's some flowers. Let me take you out to dinner. Oh my gosh, I love you. And all of that. Is that how yours started?
Absolutely. The love was declared very quickly, wanting to move the relationship on really quickly. I think he met my daughter after 3 weeks. Like, it was just bam, bam, bam. And it feels so good getting, receiving all of that love and validation. But what's interesting, what I've learned coming out of it, is the people who do that, the people who, and they call it love bombing, the people who love bomb are doing it because they need that validation, because they have pieces inside of them that they need somebody else to show them that love and affection. And it works it worked for me because I wanted it, right? I didn't see that as an unhealthy behavior. I didn't see that I didn't know that was going to eventually lead to me never being able to give him validation. Like, he didn't know how to validate himself. And so he was needing that constantly from me. And when he didn't get it, that's when he became abusive.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's definitely a precursor. Yeah. Love bombing is a precursor to emotionally abusive relationships, 100%.
Yeah. I watched that with my mom and my stepdad. My dad had passed away. He had been very sick for a long time. And he passed away in December. My mom was remarried in April to my stepdad. But boy, did he, and it was, for her, it was great. Like, that's what he did, flowers and jewelry and dinners and take her on trips and all of that. And then you slowly watched everything unfold to pretty much you're at home, you don't go anywhere, you don't talk to people, all of that. It's just such a vicious cycle too, as it goes, because it's like that. I guess, what do they call that? Darn it, I can't, gaslighting, I guess, would be and it's just they plant those little seeds in your mind that start, and you keep hearing it and hearing it. And I talk about this a lot, because in anything, you keep hearing something about yourself. And if you're not learning how to not hear that,
Yeah.
then you're gonna end up, where you feel like that. And it's
Yeah.
so sad. I mean, I was
Yeah.
at a point one time in my early marriage that I looked in the mirror and thought I was completely worthless. I was ugly. No one could ever even like me, family or anybody. I had been broken down to that point, and that was horrible
And
feeling.
it happens so slowly, like so
Mhm.
slowly over time. It just starts like little, sarcastic little comments and little digs here and there. And then eventually it just starts to get more cruel and more cruel until they've convinced you
Yeah.
that you're the problem, that
Yeah.
you are, and not only that, but that you're the abusive person.
Right. Right.
So I sat there, I can't tell you the number of times like I was on Google looking up like healthy communication skills, because apparently it didn't matter which way I tried to explain myself to this person. I was always, he always perceived me as attacking him. He always perceived me as invalidating him. And I'm like, I don't understand. I'm following all of the advice that
Right.
they say about healthy communication. But I mean, it shows you that it takes two people to understand healthy communication in order for healthy communication to work.
Yeah.
So if one person is doing their part, if the other person isn't, it's not going to work. It's not possible.
Right, right. And that communication thing that you just said. And then, like you said, I like what you said about them being broken. They need all of that validation. I
Yes.
have my one friend, and he was like that all the time. And she had to post like, oh, he got me flowers. She had to post those things, not for her, for him. Like,
Yeah.
you better validate me. If you don't, then you're going to catch all kinds of hell,
Yeah.
and when you said that, no matter what you did, it wasn't right. So with my son's father, he was both mentally and physically abusive. And my mom would be like, just don't say anything. Well, if I don't say anything, it's worse. Or if I say
Exactly.
something, it's worse. You never know where to go with everything. And it makes
Yeah.
you such a mental mess, you
Yeah, and
know?
you're constantly hyper vigilant. You're walking on eggshells. You're being very careful, and your people pleasing comes out. You're
Yeah,
just doing your best to avoid triggering their emotions so that you don't have to be abused by them.
right,
And
right.
it's such a toxic, unhealthy space to be in. It's
Yeah.
so unhealthy.
Yeah, and I remember talking to you when you were talking about your daughter and your daughter seeing that, and
Yeah,
you telling her that this is not
yeah,
the way it's supposed to be.
yeah.
Do you think that a lot of you getting away from that relationship was because of your daughter?
100%. Like I was married to my daughter's father, and he had a history of addiction. So like right away I picked probably not the best partner to try to build a life with. But I mean, if I didn't, I wouldn't have my daughter. So I love,
Right,
so
right. Yeah.
everything always works out for a reason. But so we were together about 5 years when he relapsed, and I was pregnant at the time. And so like I tried to support him through rehab, and he was in jail a couple times. And when he finally got out after my daughter was born, he was doing well for a few months. He did really well. He went to like a 6 month rehab and completely changed. I felt like it completely changed his whole mindset, and he was doing really well. But unless you're constantly working on those things and it's an active part of your life every day, it's so easy to fall back into old patterns. And so that's what happened. So I made a decision, a really hard decision, to break up my family, because we're socially conditioned that family is everything. And you made vows, you have to stick by your partner. But I had to reconcile that, wait, he's not showing up as a healthy partner. This is going to be a toxic environment for my daughter. I cannot have her in this environment. So I ended that relationship, that marriage, because I knew it was going to impact her negatively. And so I got really upset with myself when I got to the point and I realized that my next relationship was equally as abusive and was equally as toxic. I was like, I made a promise to myself that I wasn't going to be in this situation, and here I am again.
Mm.
So yeah, I needed to end that relationship, not just for her, but for me as well, like
Sure, sure.
when you're constantly belittled and berated and, made to feel like everything is your fault, it wears you down, and it makes you just feel worthless, like you've said,
Right,
standing in front of the mirror and being like, there is absolutely nothing I can do to make this person, to prove to this person that I love them.
right.
So, and the dynamic in the house was just so toxic that I knew I needed to remove myself and my daughter, because I didn't want her to think that this is what healthy relationships are.
Yes.
Because what you grow up with, I
Mhm,
grew up with the two very codependent parents. And
mhm.
so that is 100% why I ended up married to a drug addict. That is 100% why I ended up in a relationship with a narcissistic abuser, because that is what I grew up. That was what was familiar. That is what I thought real healthy love meant.
Right, right. And that's so true. You know, what I talk when we grow up in our environments like that, that's normal for us. As
Yeah.
normal it is as it is, that's our normal. You know, and
Yeah.
I to break that cycle is what we all need to do, because it was the same for me. Like my son's dad, which I'm so blessed that I have my two boys, but it was the dumbest thing I ever did in my life, because I already knew what he was like. He just got out of prison the day that I saw him. Right? He'd already been in there twice. And
Yeah.
so, but I was going to change him, of course. You know, I
Yeah.
was
Oh,
going
yeah.
to change
Yeah.
him. That was going to be me. And then he ends up getting 15 to 30 years right after I left him. So that tells you that I didn't do any changing. But that's the way that my dad was. My dad was an alcoholic. My dad was abusive to my mom. So that's what I knew. And even after that, with my mom and my stepdad, like screaming was a normal thing. That was
Yeah.
normal. People always scream, right? That's just what households do. Till I did that for the longest time, actually, just up until a few years ago, because it was normal, like screaming at the kids, that my niece and nephew that lived with me. And my son, or my nephew, I think it was, asked me one day, Aunt Timmy, why do you scream at us? And I'm like, it's the only way I can get through to you. So my son and I had a conversation. He's like, Mom, you really do. You got to take a check on that. He's like, because that's what they think is normal now. So I had
Yeah.
to back off and know that, no, what's screaming doing anybody good? It's getting my blood pressure higher. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it's all that learning process. And especially when we grew up like that, and now we have to figure out how to live differently as
How
an
to
adult,
unlearn it. Yeah.
you know?
It's rewriting all those stories in your head that we were fed as kids, that we thought this is what marriage is, and this is what love is, and this is what, relationships are supposed to be. It's taking all of that apart and rewriting all those stories and saying, wait a minute, these dynamics actually are not helpful, and they don't serve my highest good, and they're not helpful for my children to see, because it's just going to repeat the pattern.
Yeah.
So,
And so how long have you been out of the relationship now?
we broke up in March, finally in March. So it's 6-ish months. Yeah.
Okay. And how's your daughter doing with it?
Oh my God, she's so much happier.
Good.
So
Good.
much happier. It's funny because she says to me some things like she knows that he didn't treat me well. She knows that he didn't treat her well. And like I said, there'd be times where, he would be screaming at me, calling me names, and I would pack her up and I would leave the house. And as soon as we got out the door, I would say, this is not okay. It is not okay for somebody to speak to you like this. And when people do, you remove yourself from the situation. And so, yeah, it did take me some time to actually like end the relationship for good, because you hope that
Yeah.
they will, figure it out. And like, I was very aware of a lot of his trauma. I have like a little bit of a history in psychology. I've done my own work, inner child work. I've done therapy. I've done self-help. I meditate every day. Like, I had done a lot of my own healing. And I could identify, okay, he's got some unhealed trauma. He's got some attachment issues. He's got some abandonment wounds. He's got, cognitive distortions. He's got all these unhealthy patterns. And, not that I was trying to change him, but that I was trying to have empathy for his experiences in life and what led him to be to where he was. But I think that we need to really teach empathy in two different categories. Like, it's one, absolutely, you can have empathy for somebody who has experienced a lot of trauma, but that doesn't mean that you have to tolerate their
Right.
abuse,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So I was stuck in it for a long time. I would say at least a year, where I was like, I know that this has nothing to do with me. I know that this has everything to do with his unhealed trauma,
Mm.
but I was getting the abuse from it.
Right. Right.
And that's not okay.
Right.
If somebody's not actually doing the work to heal their own trauma, that doesn't mean that you get to be their punching bag.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I do want to reiterate a little bit on what you said when you said you knew you should have left, but, and I always say, like, when I talk to people about that, like, there, you see that glimmer of hope, right?
Yeah.
Like they changed for 3 days, like, or
Yeah.
like 24 hours, you're like, yeah, that's the reason why I love them. Right. And
Yeah,
you're like,
right
yeah.
back to
And
where
then,
we were in the beginning.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's
And
the
then,
cycle. And that's
right.
the cycle of abuse.
Mhm.
It's not, for somebody who hasn't actually done the healing work, that is just a facade. They can't sustain it because they haven't learned how to love themselves. And
Yes.
so it's just a little mask that they put on to make things better. But
Mhm.
once their wounds are triggered, they're gonna go back to the behavior that they have learned, and it's going to be a cycle. And that's how I think a lot of people get stuck, because it's good and then it's bad, and then it's good and then it's bad, and it's good and it's bad, and that is the cycle of abuse. That is the trauma bond. That is, all those things that they talk about. And at some point you just have to say, how much time am I willing to give this?
Right.
When is it going to be enough? When have I had enough?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've said, and I love, and I give you so much credit for doing that for your daughter too. I know for you too, but your daughter, because there's so many relationships out there that these poor kids, they're going through all of this, and they, like we said, they think it's normal, right? That's just the way it is, And I think about with my mom and my stepdad, especially, she would always hide things, like, don't tell him that you did this. But when you talked about, he wasn't being that kind to your daughter either. So my stepfather was very, very verbally, never physically abusive to my sister and I, but very verbally, like, white trash, all the things. And some of those things, like, the dumbest thing maybe is, he used to tell me my feet were ugly. My toes were completely ugly. And so when you get that implanted in your brain at a young age, you believe it. I just started wearing open toe shoes about 7 years ago because I thought my toes were so ugly, and they're not at all. They're really not. I'm like, but that was planted in my brain, so you think about that with children, especially. I mean, look at an adult, how it happens to us with an abusive person. Imagine a kid, because they don't know any different. I always think, like, who told you no? Who told you couldn't do that? Who told you were ugly? Because it came from somebody. Because you don't wake up and look in the mirror and be like, I'm ugly. It doesn't work like that. And so I keep a little picture next to my mirror in my bathroom. It's me, like, I think I was fourth grade, maybe third grade. But I look at that picture sometimes if I'm having a day, because we still have days, right? It's not like we're completely healed and everything in the world is grand. We still have to do the work. And I think that's important to know too. But I look at that little girl and I brush my teeth, and I'll talk to her like, it's going to be okay. You're going to grow up and you're going to be okay, or I look at her and I say, don't believe that lie that they told you that you had a high forehead, or whatever, it's just those things. But I think daily, and I'm sure, Jackie, you do this too daily, we have to have those tools in place in order to get through our days and to become better, not fall short.
Like you said, like, you don't just magically heal. Like, it's a process. It's like, it's like an onion. You're peeling off this layer and that layer. And like, I had a pretty traumatic childhood. Like, I lost a parent at the age of 16, and then my mom moved to another country, and by the age of 17 I was pretty much alone by myself in Canada. So that's a lot of abandonment wounds there, and like self-worth issues. My whole family abandoned me. That gets carried into your adult life and your adult relationships. And so like I had done a ton of work on unpacking all of that stuff, prior to my marriage, prior to this, my most previous relationship, but it still comes up.
Yeah.
It still comes up. And I think like the biggest takeaway I got from this last relationship was my people pleasing patterns and having poor boundaries. And even though like I knew, boundaries are healthy and we need to have boundaries prior to the relationship, in that relationship is when I saw, okay, this is why these things are important. Right. And so it's just interesting that there's always going to be something that comes into your life that triggers that wound from your childhood. And you have to have the self-awareness to be able to step back and say, okay, there you are, you're here again. You've come to visit, come to say hi. And you just have to, like you said, talk to your inner child and remind your inner child that you're here for them. Right. I'm here to take care of you. When everybody else in your life abandoned you, I'm not going to. I'm going to take care of you.
That's huge what you just said. You just gave me chills. Like that is very powerful because it's so true, and just the healing process, and I tell people, especially nowadays, well, I think counseling is the best thing ever. Everybody should go to counseling. But I also I tell, well, of course, people, I can't afford that. I'm like, go to YouTube. Just, there's so much help there. There is so much help in this world right now. Free help, and just, of course you got to find the right ones, but there's so much out there that can just help, get through your days now. And you said you meditate. So do you do what you do in the morning when you get up, or?
Every morning, at least 15 minutes I spend meditating every morning. And that has been a game changer for me in terms of regulating my nervous system. And tapping into my intuition. So when I was at the lowest of lows in my abusive relationship, I started a daily meditative practice because I was so lost and I was so confused all the time. And I thought, I'm just going to take time for me every morning to sit with myself and listen to and listen to myself and clear out the clutter. And it helped me figure out what stories were mine and what stories were being put in my head by somebody else. So that is what was really powerful for me about meditating. I learned my truth, what I believed versus what somebody else was telling me to believe. And so I 100% encourage meditation to anybody it just has so many benefits, like teaching you how to detach from your emotions and teaching you how to detach from your thoughts so that your thoughts and emotions don't run your life. You're able to choose, whether you're going to give something meaning or not. It's just such a powerful, powerful tool.
So just for our listeners, when you started meditating, so for me, meditating has been very hard. I do it, but it's really hard because I feel like I can't shut my brain off. So I've done the things where it's a log going through my head and going over a waterfall, just letting things go. And I'm learning how to do it. But so when you first started doing it, was it hard for you to meditate? Was it hard to just sit still and be?
Because your brain is constantly chattering at you. But I think the trick is it's learning the awareness. So when your brain is chattering at you, just acknowledging, oh, there you are, you're going off, you're running off on a little tangent, and then you acknowledge it, and then you start focusing on your breathing again. Okay. So when I first started meditating, it was more breathing, more breath work and focusing on breathing. And so that you can catch yourself when you start to go off. And you can just kind of laugh at yourself and then, come back to that present moment. It's about teaching you how to be present and not allowing the chatter of your brain to get in the way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But also non-judgmental way, because everybody's brain is constantly going and, so it's just learning how to acknowledge when it's happening and then to return back to the present moment. So, yeah.
Yeah. So is that basically what you do in the morning then, is your meditation? Do you do anything else to get yourself ready for the day?
I meditate for 15 minutes and then I usually do a workout. And I feel personally for me, mind, body, spirit, it's all connected. You have
Yeah.
to have, you have to be putting energy into all of that every day.
Yeah.
To get to a place of balance, to get to a place of, just intrinsic wellness. So yeah, I do, whether I do yoga or whether I do weights, so, whatever I'm in the mood for that day, I'm always meditating for 15 minutes and then moving my body for a half an hour.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. You're doing a great job, just so you know, just in case nobody told you lately, you're doing a great job. No, and it's awesome to hear your story because, and I know somebody's going to really relate to this story because there's so much out there, men and women alike. I was just telling you, I spoke to a gentleman last night for quite a long time, and he was in, an abusive narcissistic relationship for 2 years. He was like, he didn't even call her narcissistic. He called her the devil. And I was like, whoa. And as he was explaining to me, I'm like, she would be labeled as a narcissist. And, you don't like put labels on people, but she was, I mean, everything he was saying, it was like, man. And to know that it happens to men too, it's not just men out there doing it to women, women do it to men too, so we all need to be aware. And, like you said, you got out of your first relationship and you thought you were pretty well healing and things like that, and go, but they swoop in, like you said, the love bomb, they just swoop in, swoop you off your feet. You already feel like, okay, I left him, so I'm better now. And then here they come, and you're like, oh, here we go again, unfortunately.
Well, I think that that's the important piece is trying to identify, we spend so much time like, let's diagnose our ex as a narcissist. I don't know that that is actually helpful. I think it's more important to be looking at people. Are you emotionally healthy or are you emotionally unhealthy? Because emotionally healthy people don't have the characteristics of a narcissist.
Right.
They have empathy, they can hold space, they can self-reflect, they can self-regulate, and so instead of, but I think that there is this desire to like label our partners as a narcissist because it kind of removes some kind of accountability. But I would argue that there is still accountability. You still attracted that was attractive for you. So what is it about you that found that behavior attractive? Because that, like I already explained, that love bombing behavior is unhealthy behavior. An emotionally healthy person is not going to tell you they love you after 4 days. They're not going to want to meet your children after 2 weeks. They're not going to want to consume all of your time because they have things in their life that bring them joy outside of you. So I think that it's incredibly important to instead, diagnose people to say, hey, like, what does healthy look like, emotionally healthy look like versus emotionally unhealthy? And you'll save yourself a lot of, you'll save yourself from getting into emotionally unhealthy relationships once you can figure that out.
Right. And once you learn more about, like you said, yourself, because I always said that too, like that was my magnet. I was a magnet for those kind of men. Like that's who always was like, hey, and I'm like, hey, but and I would say that too. I'd be like, it's like I got a magnet on my forehead, drawing them in. But once I started working on me and learning my boundaries and who I am, those people fell off. Like,
well, and it's important to note too that like you might still attract them. They might still come to you because you've got light and energy and love, and they love those types of people. But if you've done your work, those types of people are not going to be attractive to you, right? So, you can't. Those like narcissistic people, emotionally unhealthy people, they love people that have a lot of empathy. They love people that have compassion and that are motivated. They love the energy and love that you give. And so it is up to you to be able to decipher who is healthy and who is unhealthy, because you're going to attract everybody. Because just of the love and that you have in your heart, your being, your energy, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, this was awesome. I love this talk. I think that we're going to have to do it again soon.
Yeah.
I always tell people when they're on my podcast, you're my friend forever now. So that's just the way it works. But I was super excited and blessed that you decided to share your story with us. I think that people that will get on here and share their stories are so powerful, because it's not beautiful, pretty what we went through or what we go through, but it's such a beauty to know that you're healing through it, you're getting through a strength, and it lets other people know, man, you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not the only one going through that. And it gives people the I guess to know that they can reach out to somebody else and talk to them about it, and not be scared and shy and think that somebody's going to look at them and say, well, that's your own damn fault, because people do that, right? Like, well, it's your own fault. You knew what he was like when you got in this was my relationship. Like, it was your own fault. You knew what you were getting into. No, I was going to make him better. I was going to help him. So, but that's just the mindset that people have, instead of being like, okay, something's wrong with you too, but we got to fix everything. It doesn't just, and that's working on ourselves is probably the biggest thing that I've been doing I've been doing it a long time, but since my mom passed away in 2020, and I'm really like, my son lives by himself, so I'm really by myself. So in the last, since 21, just been doing a healing of myself, and doing the inner child and all of that. And it's just changed so many dynamics of my life, and for years, I didn't think I could be alone. I couldn't be alone, and I say that I haven't been in a relationship in over 19 years, but I was never alone because I always had family that I was taking care of. So I was always doing that, and very, very toxic family that I was taking care of.
Yeah.
So I didn't even realize that. Actually, I didn't even realize it till we were just sitting here now. Like, from 21 to now is the only time I've ever been alone in my entire existence on this planet, and that's where you have to start doing the healing, because you're with who? You're with you.
And I think that's the most important thing is, like, you can't know what you want or the type of partner you want until you really get clear about what you value.
Mhm.
And knowing like what is your truth and what you value and what's meaningful for you. And so it takes being alone and dissecting those thoughts and dissecting, our social conditioning and our stories. And it takes that work in order to be able to truly know who you are at your core, and then to be able to look for the same values in other people. Because if you don't have the same values, it's just not going to work. It's just going to be a toxic dynamic, because it's going to be a power struggle.
Right, exactly. So I'm so blessed that you're healing. It just makes my heart happy. When I came across you on TikTok, I was like, oh, I gotta message this girl real quick. And it's funny because, well, there's so many spammers and stuff out there that you never know. So I always am trying to like put my link in there or something so that you know that it's really me, so I'm just blessed that you accepted my friend request, and, you got on here and shared. I like to tell my guests, I like to touch base with you again, in 6 months and see where things are going, so people can hear, that the journey always continues to grow, and that's what I think we're just supposed to always do. We're always just supposed to level up. We might get knocked down a little bit, but it's okay. Just get back up, and you can keep going. So I appreciate you getting on here. Is there any last thing you want to say to anybody?
Just know that healing is a process, and you're not alone. You're not alone. There's so many people that have gone through the same things, and it's about finding a network of. I think one of the most powerful things that people say to me is, you have put into words what I have not been able to articulate. And knowing and just receiving that validation that, hey, what you experienced, it was legit. Those feelings inside saying this isn't right, that was true. Listen to yourself, trust your intuition. It's there for a reason. It's there to guide you into being the most healthy version of yourself. And it takes being able to sit with yourself to figure out what your truth is, and ignoring the crap from other people. ignoring the crap from other people. But I'm honestly honored to be here. It was I've gotten like some pretty crazy asks on, TikTok. People, do you want to do a makeup tutorial? No. But this is absolutely what I want to be doing. I want to be sharing my story. I want to be offering encouragement and advice, and honestly validating people that, hey, you're not crazy. This did happen to you, and it's once you get somebody to validate your experience, then that is, I think, the most important part for you to start making changes. When you're accepting, when you accept that that is what happened, then you can start doing the growth work to either pull yourself out of it or, get yourself to a better place of trusting yourself.
Yes, for sure. For sure. So do you mind if people follow you on TikTok?
Oh, follow me, please.
What's your name on there?
J.P.E.
J.P.E. Okay. I'm going to put, so what I'll do is I'll put those in the comment section, and then that way people can follow you, because it's very powerful what you're doing. And it's so great to see that and just know that. And I love TikTok because I feel like it's giving people a platform to actually talk, right?
Yes.
It's just, and expressing who you are. Like, I don't talk a lot on mine. I do my dance videos, my sober dance videos all the time, but that's just who I am, and I just want people to know I'm happy. And I had somebody just tell me, they're like, I can just see the happiness, and especially if I'm dancing, like that's my happy time. But just out there, just, sharing our stories and letting people know, like you said, you're not alone in your struggle. So I really appreciate you getting on here with me today, Jackie. And everybody that tuned in today, thank you for tuning into Hope, whether it's YouTube channel, podcast, Apple, Spotify. If you guys could leave a comment or a rating, that'd be awesome, just so it grows and other people can hear these amazing stories. So, and I hope this story today encouraged somebody to get up out of bed, just get up, take a deep breath, and you're going to be okay. Just you have to do some work. And that's what I wanted to say too, because you said that, healing is a process. And I want people to know that, like, I always say, I didn't get to this point overnight. It's just like working out. You don't get abs in a day. You're unhealthy mentally, maybe, and you got to work on it. It doesn't happen. Like, people say to me, well, look how happy you are. And I'm like, I've been sober 19 years. Do you think that 19 years ago I was this happy? No, it's been a complete journey all along, and then getting to the healing process. So just know that you can get better. You're going to get better, but you got to do the work. It's work, like you said, and learning how to do the things that are going to help you. So once again, everybody, thank you for getting on Hope. Jackie, thank you so much. I hope that you and your daughter have a great weekend, and we will talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.